Live from the Score Atlanta television studios in North Atlanta, this is Georgia High School Sports Daily, powered by IBEW Local 613.
All right, happy Thursday, happy Friday Eve, and welcome to another episode of the Georgia High School Sports Daily. I'm Najee Wilkins along with Craig Sager. I have a pretty good show in store for you. We'll talk to Cherokee Bluffs head coach Jeremy Kemp in our third segment. We'll go over some front runners in basketball in our last segment, and then we'll look at some state champions from all fall sports and kind of do a compare and contrast there as well. But before we get into it with our fast break headlines, Craig, I do want to ask you, tonight is the start of the semifinals in the playoffs. Got Penn State, Notre Dame. I know we are a high school show, but I just want to get your early thoughts on that. Just what do you think about that matchup? What are you excited for?
You know, early in the season, I probably wouldn't have been excited about that matchup. But after seeing Notre Dame, how well they handled that Sugar Bowl, the coaching, the execution on third down, they really played just a great overall football game. I mean, they went out there, won the game, dominated. So I'm interested to see if they make any adjustments, how aggressive they're going to be. So I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I think it will too. It's going to be interesting to see kind of just, I know obviously going to that game, Notre Dame's a little banged up. Jeremiah Love's kind of been dealing with that injury. Their star running back as well. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how they look offensively in this game, how much they can air the ball out. Really good defense. It might be low scoring. I'm going to go maybe like a 20-14 victory for Notre Dame with their elite defense that they have. But I'm just hoping it's a good game between two elite opponents.
Yeah, and look at how they closed out the game against Georgia. I mean, It might be low scoring. It also might be a quick game. The way they were running the ball, converting on third down, then the special teams, the fake punt, all that just to really put the nail in the coffin. I was thoroughly impressed. Obviously, playing Georgia, you got to play your best game. They came out and did it. But now the goal's in sight. I think they're going to play with a lot of confidence. It seems like anytime I pick Notre Dame, they let me down. But, I mean, as a Georgia fan, I feel like you've got to pick them at this point.
100%. All right, guys, well, it's time for our fast break headlines, so we'll go ahead and get right into it. At the top, five-star Caleb Wilson. He set a new school record, surpassing over 1,500 career points. The previous mark was by Garrison Powell, who had 1,499, who now plays his college ball at North Carolina A&T. Wilson finished the game with 13 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 blocks. The Golden Bears currently sit with an overall record of 12-2, currently sit at number 6 in high school on SI. Top 25 basketball rankings regardless of classification, and they're currently on an 11-game winning streak. And as you guys can see right there, him breaking the record. Before I bring Craig here, Craig has a lot of intel on this. I do want to give him a shout out because he could have went to a different school. A lot of schools over the offseason were, calling for him. He could have transferred out, but he decided to stay home and, just get it out the mud how he's continuing to do. So I want to give Caleb just credit on that. And I mean, he's just a great versatile player, number 1 player in Georgia. I think he's top 2 in the country or top 3 in the country. So just want to give him a shout out what he's doing here on the hardwood.
That is such a good point because Holy Innocents is a great team. They've had big playoff runs, but they are not special without him. And you've seen them in those big time tournaments. And the reason they're getting that invite is because of his star power. If you watched the state championship last year against North Oconee, that was a great overall team. He was the only reason they were able to stay in that game, and it was really him having to kind of get off his game a little bit. He had to try to shoot the 3 to get him back in it. He was making them. He had to get to the foul line. So he easily could go and play on a super team, play with better guys. But he likes to be that star, I feel like, and that's just a big milestone. And they're number 1 in our Class A through 3A private rankings. We'll see if he can get it done this year.
100%. We'll find out. Now, obviously, last note on Caleb, Kentucky and North Carolina are the 2 teams that are standing out the most. This was reported by Joe Tipton of On3. So he has not signed. Remember, there was an early signing window back, I believe, in November for basketball. He has not signed yet, so it's coming down to that top 5. But North Carolina and Kentucky standing out. All right, let's go to headline 2. Kate Hartring continuing to get it done also on the hardwood. She crossed 2,000 points in her career. According to 247 Sports, she's rated as the number 1 prospect in the country, the number 1 point guard, and the number 1 player in Georgia. Hartring holds offers from Alabama, Connecticut, Georgia, Georgia Tech, South Carolina, Iowa, and so many more. Craig, I remember me and you talking about this was back when we did not have the studio. We were doing it on the little setup that we had before and was streaming the show. And I remember us talking about that game that she just took over, and it might have been against River Ridge or it might have been against North Forsyth, but she just completely took over the game and just had an amazing moment that we will always remember.
Yeah, we knew she was good. We didn't know. I think in that game she scored something like 53 of her team's like 60 points or something like that. She was getting triple teamed. Did not matter, and we knew that was the only way they were going to win that game. The ball went through her every single possession. She just went off. It was one of the best playoff performances I think in state history, and she did it as an underclassman. And especially with the way her team plays defensively. When she's able to get going offensively, it's the next deal. She's such a good athlete, too. So congratulations to her, a 2,000-point milestone. Let's get to headline 3 real quick. Carver Atlanta High School head coach Darren Miles is named the Atlanta Falcons 2024 Coach of the Year. He was recognized this past Sunday at the Falcons-Carolina Panthers game. You can go to scoreatl.com and check out the full story. Great insight on how Darren Miles really built the Carver Atlanta program. He was born in New Orleans. He played college football at Purdue. He immediately got into coaching at his alma mater. An opportunity to come over to Georgia opened up to come over to Atlanta. He was actually on the, I think it was Crim High School staff back when they didn't have their own track, they didn't have their own facilities, but he said that was the job where he felt like he could prove to himself that he could be a head coach in Georgia. He had success there. Then he went to Douglas High School. His first ever team had Jamal Lewis. He was the running backs coach, so he coached a future Hall of Famer. In that, he went to Carver Atlanta, and he has led them to extreme amounts of success. So anyone, obviously they've heard of Carver Atlanta, they know how good he is, but if you really want to get an idea of how impressive his overall body of work is, his style, his philosophy, check out that piece right there. And then one of the best stories I have about Coach Miles was when he came on the show 2 seasons ago, and that was when they're in that Cedar Grove, Sandy Creek, Douglas region. So they had to schedule a lot of non-region games. And I was like, hey, looks like you only have 8 games on your schedule. And he was like, no, we just picked up another one. He's like, Buford. And it was like a week before the season. I thought he said like Buford, like the BEUFORT from South Carolina. So I was like, oh, you're playing the team from South Carolina? He's like, no, we're playing Buford. I was like, oh, man. And then they were actually up at the half.
Yep,
so what he's done with Carver, being able to put them on those televised games, the standard he's had, the amount of players, it's just really impressive. I'm happy for him. He's getting 2 tickets for the Super Bowl in his hometown of New Orleans, and I hope that he wins the whole thing when that's announced later this month.
Yeah, great point out by Craig. Remember, last year didn't have the best season, but turned it around. It was a perennial playoff team this past year. So shout out to Carver Atlanta and Coach Darren Miles. All right, let's go to our next headline. Max Preps announced the high school football All-American team. So we talked about the juniors yesterday. I want to highlight the sophomores. Sophomore is always a good class to look at because it kind of gives you a preview of what to look for going forward in the state and who's going to be kind of the next stars. So obviously Andrew Beard made this list. All-around running back, he ran for 1,937 yards and 21 touchdowns to go along with 32 receptions for 525 yards and 5 touchdowns. Couldn't play in the state championship game, was dealing with a lingering ankle issue, but had a phenomenal year. He made our all-classification team this past year. George Lamage Jr., Brooks County, a name that I got more familiar with as the season progressing into the playoffs. He had a phenomenal, playoff game in the state championship. 63 catches, 1,340 yards, and 20 touchdowns this past year for Brooks County. Aaron McWilliams, East Coweta. Second-rated kicker in the class of 2027, according to Coles, made 12 of 13 field goals. DJ Jacobs, a name we know a lot here in the state of Georgia, led a talented team in tackles, 116, 31 tackles for loss, and 11 sacks. You also have Braden Tyson. He made all classification for us as well. Rushed for over 2,100 yards and 26 touchdowns to go along with 20 receptions for over 300-plus yards. Kelsey Adams, who just picked up a Georgia Tech offer, and many, many more. He's blowing up in recruiting as well. 6'6", 270, 5-star offensive tackle, put together another outstanding performance. LaDamian Guyton, who formerly of Savannah Christian, who's now at Benedictine. We broke that on Monday. He's the second-rated prospect in the class 27, according to 247 Sports. You go to 0-3, he's the number 1 rated player. He's outstanding. Next up, Max Brown Jefferson, 6 foot 210. Like I said, that kid there, he's special. You know, team high, 152 tackles, 14 tackles for loss. And like I said, when we had our Elite Classic, he was there showing up, working out, and getting a pre-pump before they even had the game. That tells you all you need to know. And last but not least, I'm going to break Craig in on this one. Jake Godfrey from North Gwinnett led them to one of their best seasons, since they had Barrett Carter and Josh Downs. He finished with 129 tackles and 19 tackles for loss. Jake Godfrey, another stud here in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, so what an impressive list, these guys representing Georgia on the All-American list. I think with Jake, though, what I like about him, he's such a tough kid, and the overall effort he plays with, obviously that comes from having your dad as a head coach, but he really has stepped up. It is not easy, one, to be a coach's son. It's also not easy to go out there as a freshman on the defensive line at North Gwinnett, one of the best year after year defensive units in the state, and he has shown up, played very well, and the fact that he's made this list a huge accomplishment. I know his dad's proud, and he's going to be there 2 more years for North Gwinnett, wrecking havoc on that defensive line. All right, headline number 5, the Gwinnett Tip-Off Club honors the best in Georgia high school basketball from the season's first 2 months. This happened on Wednesday, releasing its teams, coaches, and players of the month. The November Girls Team of the Month went to Hebron Christian. The Girls Coach of the Month was head coach Jan Azar. The December Girls Team of the Month was Mill Creek, and the coach was Jeremy Huckabee, the leader of Mill Creek. Grayson and South Gwinnett shared the November Boys Team of the Month award, and their coaches split. And then in the month of December, Grayson was also the December Team of the Month, while Boys Coach of the Month was Buford's West Parker. Then we have some November Girls Players of the Month. You have Mariah Whitehead from Archer, Diana Pina, Berkmar, Justice McCoy, Brookwood, Lydia Ledford Buford, Asia Spivey, Central Gwinnett, Kaylee Haywood, Collins Hill, Jade Jones, Discovery, Zanai Carter, Duluth, Tatum Brown, Grayson, Kobe Obi, Greater Atlanta Christian, Elena Beckham, Hebron Christian. Some of the boys real quick: Kamal Green, Archer, Christian Baxton, Berkmar, Messiah, Knight, Brookwood, Carmelo, Williams, Buford. You can go check out that full list at GwinnettDailyPost.com.
All right, guys. So that's going to conclude it for our Fast Break headlines. Coming up, we will look at all the programs from the fall, who won state titles, multiple won it in different sports. So we'll take a deep dive and look at that right here on segment 2 on the Peachtree Sports Network.
Great teams are committed, focused on the details, and work hard to be their best. From practice to games, right down to their gear. Your field is a critical part of the game that allows your athletes to showcase their athletic abilities. Sports Turf is committed to bringing your team innovative sports surfaces with unparalleled performance. You bring the vision. Our team brings it to life.
The Georgia Sheet Metal JETC equips apprentices with the knowledge and skills required to start a rewarding career in the sheet metal industry with programs in HVAC, industrial welding, and testing, adjusting, and balancing. Training is 100% free and allows apprentices to earn as they learn. Journeymen graduate with no student debt and have the potential to earn more than most college graduates. Visit our website to learn more about this opportunity at careersinsheetmetal.com.
This makes my dad proud. He went through his whole career as an employee. Now I'm the employer, something he didn't achieve.
We are signatory to IBEW and do IBEW people wherever we go that we feel like they are faster and better than any of our competition.
The advantages of being a signatory contractor is you're trained employees. You have unlimited manpower. It allows me to bid on jobs that I ordinarily would not go after.
Man, you know how to do this? Man, I don't even know. I was flipping burgers last week.
Violation, unsportsmanlike conduct, impersonating a craftsman.
Skilled trade unions are well-trained career pros, not part-timers. Construction is a rewarding and lucrative career with the advancement potential, but you have to do it the right way with the right training. Learn how you can be a pro. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is brought to you by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 613. Electrify your career.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Najee Wilkes along with Craig Sager. So now we're going to take a deep look into the fall championship. Several teams won the first ever title. You had 34 teams winning fall championships. So was fantastic. I'll start off with Milton. Milton obviously won multiple state championships this past year. They won one in football and also boys cross country. We know how great their football team was, 15-0, back-to-back state champions. It also was named public school national champions consensus as well. So we know how phenomenal they were in sports as well. Another team was Wesleyan. They won both softball and girls cross country titles. So they were also another fantastic program this past year. And we know what Wesleyan can produce not only in football, not only in soccer, but also in these other sports as well. And then obviously Craig Pope had a really good year as well.
Yes, they did. Pope won cross country girls, flag football, and then the volleyball state title. We talked about it actually on Monday. Pope had lost to Alpharetta in the state championship last year. Alpharetta ended up being the best team out of Georgia this last year, nationally ranked. So it was a wide open classification. What was tough about Pope, though, they lost to Alpharetta in the finals after beating them in the regular season. And then the same thing was true kind of with Pope last year in flag football. They lost to Milton. This year, though, they ended up on that, I think, 16-game win streak. So the way they closed out both volleyball and flag football, they were playing excellent down the stretch. They left no uncertainty, and that's a pretty good fall right there, taking 3 out of the 4 sports. The only one they didn't was softball. They've obviously won a softball one recently. So the girls at Pope are really doing their thing. You mentioned Milton, though, winning the cross country. That's huge for them. And obviously Milton track and field is going to be a big contender. They've left Class 7A. They're down to this Class 5A. They're going to have to go up against Hughes in the state championship. But the fact that they have the distance runners winning that cross-country state title, that's going to help them tremendously once we get to track and field. And same thing with Denmark. The Denmark boys took the 6A, the highest classification this year. It's a very tough, loaded classification. But the fact that they won the cross-country, you have to look at the distance races once they get to track and field in the spring, because they obviously have a ton of talent at that position.
100%. Now, a program I want to ask you about, Craig, is obviously Hebron Christian. I think a program you kind of highlighted before. They kind of had this big blow up, and now they're starting being known all around the state. And predominantly, they're known at the moment as a girls basketball program. But we've seen this year they add 2 more titles in fall sports. Add 1 in volleyball, and they added 1 in football. Now, football, I want to shout out to their coach. I thought he did a phenomenal job this past year of getting that group to where it was. Nobody really had them winning no state championship this year. Everybody thought Prince Avenue Christian. Now, Prince Avenue Christian dealt with several injuries this past year, you know what I'm saying, and still was able to make it, probably one of their tougher years. But when you look at Hebron, the accumulation of talent, how they built from within, didn't have a lot of transfers. Talk about that program in general, just how great it is.
Yeah, well, I think when you look at the success they've had, Hebron Christian has Hall of Fame coaches all over that school for all their sports. It's crazy if you think about it. You talk about Coach Azar leading the girls program, what she did last year. Did they lose 1 game maybe to Grayson, I think? Ended up obviously taking the entire title, being nationally ranked. You have Coach Guess. He's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. There's no doubt about it, what he's done. And so it shows me that Hebron, they have tremendous pull to them to be a smaller school based in Gwinnett. That's a really great area over in that Decula area. They're able to attract a lot of support around their programs because they have such great coaches that have won state titles before. And so I think they are definitely doing the right thing. Not many places with how competitive it is with all these metro private schools can put together a collection like that, but they have it going on. I think it kind of started with Jeff Saturday several years ago when he took that job at first. He passed it on, and now you have Coach Guest coming in with his staff. You got David Green on that staff, Bruce Miller. I just think it's their investment in coaches that know what they're doing that has really helped them maximize that talent.
100%. And then obviously Bleckley County is another one. They won boys and girls cross country titles, Craig. Predominantly, a football school that does really well here in the state of Georgia. But how cool is it to see them just winning in other sports?
Yeah, sweeping those titles obviously is not easy to do. But as I said, it's going to help them once they get into the track and field season. And then Bleckley County, to me, they've always been great at girls basketball. There's a couple other sports they dominated, but you're right. What their football team, the Royals, have done, that's usually one of their top fall sports. So I don't know how many cross-country titles they won, but sweeping is certainly something to be proud of. you only see teams like Westminster doing that.
Yes, yes, and we obviously know what a great program Westminster is in swim and dive and several other sports, but yeah, you rarely see teams sweep, especially cross country or sports like that. Craig, this team I want to ask you about, obviously, they're your favorite kind of going forward, preseason favorite with, obviously now we're in the offseason, it's going to take some time, but Grayson was the only Gwinnett team to win a fall championship, which is hard to believe, but what's just your thoughts just about that? I mean, if you take out, obviously, Hebron Christian.
I actually did not know that stat. That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one, they were very close to not doing it. They had to come back against Douglas County. That was quite a game. It just goes to show how good Douglas County is going to be. I think it's huge. And Grayson, really, when you think of who's the best program in Georgia's highest classification right now, you've got to give them consideration. What they are doing in basketball right now. And then even last season in baseball, we saw them going toe-to-toe with Brookwood Parkview. They are very underrated, I think, as a collective athletic program, and this success is going to be contagious. When you start the fall off hot, what that football team was able to accomplish, I think it's going to help them moving forward for this entire school year. And obviously, going into next year, also, shout out to Coach Carswell. I think us picking him as that defensive coordinator of the year before the state championship, that whoever decided that pick in Class 6A absolutely nailed that one. What a job he did leading that group, getting them prepared.
100%, Craig. Now, let's take a quick look, Craig, just at the winter sports. Just out of these teams that we've named that won state titles are ones that obviously we're going to do a deeper dive with basketball here in a little bit, but which ones in basketball, wrestling, I know you're big on wrestling, Craig, obviously swim and dive, out of these teams that won state championships you think you could, and what's maybe a surprise team?
Well, let's go to, starting in Class 6A, obviously Buford is hungry for a state title at this point. I mentioned in my blog, this is the first fall since 2018 they haven't won a state title. Usually they're really great at volleyball, obviously football, they've won a ton. And softball, that was the big one where they had the dynasty. I think this year wrestling is going to be key for them. And then what can Milton do in basketball right now? I feel like they are sitting quiet on the boys' side as one of the top programs. Then in Class 4A, we haven't seen the breakthrough from some of the private schools with Marist, St. Pius, Westminster. And then I honestly think North Oconee has what it takes to win the Directors' Cup this year in 4A, and obviously getting that big start with what they did in football and then making deep runs in the other sports. I think North Oconee might end up, once the entire school year is over, having the most state titles and playoff runs out of that entire class.
And then as far as just maybe a sleeper, what do you feel about, obviously, Carrollton? They won the dual championship here 2023 with the girls. What do you think their chances are in wrestling this year maybe?
I think the chances are good. The problem with wrestling is just Camden County is so dominant. They've had their grip on the highest classification for a long time. I think maybe they've lost it like once in the last decade. So I think it will be tough for Carrollton. That entire area, though, is on the rise in wrestling. We saw it with Bremen last year winning their state title. Obviously, the Carrollton girls won their first wrestling state title last year. The boys won't be far behind, but I just think it's going to be too tough with Camden County. That is what they're great at. They are the Parkview baseball of wrestling, the Milton girls lacrosse of wrestling. They're so dominant, it is just hard to count them out.
100%. Well, guys, that's going to do it for our state championships fall, basically recapping the latest that happened. Congratulations to all the champions here in the state of Georgia, just being able to put your team on your back and get them there. Some winning their first ever title, some winning some in a long time. So a special shout out to them in the programs. Coming up, we have an exclusive interview with Cherokee Bluffs baseball coach Jeremy Kemp. So don't go anywhere. State runner-up last year. Can't wait to find out more about his program right here on the Peachtree Sports Network.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is presented by GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com. Transform your future today. And by Smart Local 85. Sheet metal is a smart move.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Nigel Wilkins along with Craig Sager. Remember that you can watch the show on YouTube TV via Peachtree Sports Network. You can stream it on the Lightning News First app and also CBS Sports local streaming app, Zeem. Craig, we're going to have the head coach here for Cherokee Bluff here on a second as they try to get him. But you seen this team last year, an incredible run, very talented team. What was your thoughts on their run to the state championship last year?
Yeah, I think whoever made these notes, they're 100% right. The fact that they were in that same region as North Oconee. North Oconee was the premier team. Cherokee Bluff was the only one to really challenge them. They would always force those 3 games, split the regular season series. So they are extremely battle-tested. Coach Kemp is well familiar with that Hall County area. He's been at Gainesville before. Gainesville just hired Chan Brown, the former Parkview coach. So Hall County baseball right now is a huge hotbed, a ton of talent. And Cherokee Bluff, as the new kids to the block, have really made a lot of noise. They've been on the door looking for that state title.
And then let's talk just real quick about some of their, really good players. Obviously, Bubba Coleman, who was formerly committed, I believe, to LSU, and KT Thompson, several, really elite players. What did you see from them last year? Obviously, some of the better batters they had, but what did you see from them play?
Well, I'm sure Coach can talk about it. I mean, offensively, they had tremendous success. I mean, they would routinely put up double-digit runs. I think maybe the bullpen issue, it's very tough to just have that much depth. I think that might be something that can take them to the next level. I think offensively, though, those guys you mentioned, they definitely put up the numbers, got on base, and they have a lot of firepower.
Yes, they do. And they're obviously still in search for their first ever state championship this upcoming year. I think they're still working out the details to try to get them. But obviously, we pointed out KT Thompson, who had a phenomenal year as well. He's a 2-sport athlete. He's also on the football team, Georgia Southern commit as well, so he'll be one to watch. And obviously lost to Stars Mill in the state championship. So we'll see what's his thoughts on that. But as we continue to wait, Craig, just talk about what's the latest on just the website for Score ATL. I know you've been working on some blogs this week. What were some things you've been working on?
Yeah, so it is loaded with content right now. We're trying to hit every classification throughout the week. So we started out, we've got some 2-way blogs. That was a great one done on Monday, highlighting Carver Columbus, trying to really do something special this year by winning the football state title, and now basketball. They're number 1 in the polls right now. I think they have a really good chance to do that. That is a rare feat. We've seen a few other teams do it. Grayson's trying to do it. Sandy Creek's done it in the past. Norcross has done it, but it's very tough because you got to think with those 2 sports, those are going to be your best athletes in the hall. I know other sports, you have to be a great athlete. Those are more specialized. I feel like to succeed at the basketball level in the state of Georgia, you have to have size. You've got to have extreme athleticism to be able to make it all the way. Carver Columbus has a wealth of athleticism, so I think that'd be a big accomplishment for them. They're comfortable in this new Class 2A classification, and so we tried to hit them all. I did the 6A blog. You're doing your recruiting news. We've got a Class A Division II coming out tomorrow. We've got 5A up.
4A as well.
4A, so we've got all the classifications, and then the different sports. We highlighted swimming. We've highlighted
lacrosse.
Yeah, lacrosse.
Baseball.
Yeah, baseball, basketball. We got the rankings out, so we are going to have a lot of it covered, including just recruiting news. But I think the classification blogs, that's the new thing we're trying to get going, and it's only going to continue to build. Once you have that first one put out, then they'll be updated weekly with new content, new storylines within the classification, just following all the sports.
Now, Craig, I do want to ask you, bringing up a really great point about basketball, and you're talking about, obviously how it is, what you need to be or what you need to do in order to be great. I want to ask you, you've been covering this for over a decade now, or close to. What have you seen maybe in terms of changes from when you came in and you were covering the sport of basketball, not college, but I'm saying like high school, compared to where the game is now?
I think Coach Sharman White hit the nail on the head. He said, why does he stay coaching high school basketball? Because he feels like it's the most pure version of it in the game, where, hey, he's got a new crop of freshmen. He's got to get them ready. If he wants to win a state title, they're going to have to step up and fill in. He can't rely on a transfer or a scholarship. He's just got to develop them immediately this season. So I think that's just what's exciting about it. To me, though, the first time I covered high school basketball, it had been a while since I'd seen it, and I was in Macon. I saw a fast break opportunity. I mean, there's been some great guys that we've seen come through, whether it's Jaylen Brown, Walker Kessler, all these different guys. Who was the guy from Pace Academy? Wendell
Carter?
Yeah, Wendell Carter. Mm-hmm. But I saw a fast break, and this player went up for the layup, looked behind him. The guy was like, all right, I'm ready to block it. He kept waiting, and then eventually put it up. And when I saw that, it's like, you see that at the college level now. You see it in the NBA. I feel like LeBron, when he would chase guys down on the fast break and hit it off the backboard, you now see so much athleticism at the high school level where these players are going up with control, knowing that someone's jumping up behind them and then finessing it around to lay up off the glass. I think just the overall athleticism I've seen, that's been the biggest thing. And then the growth of the girls' game. We've seen girls really specialize their game where you have post players that can go out and knock down threes now. It's not just about getting the boards. There's more versatility, and I think the opportunities are there on the girls' game.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, just the proliferation of the sport, it's gotten better. And to your point, Craig, about the specialization, like we see it now, like the girls can just do so many things well, right? They're not just driving to the paint. They can defend at a high level, get steals. Gianni Rogers is one on the high school level, maybe one of the better ones I've seen just in terms of what she can do, the difficult shot making. I kind of compare it a little bit to what J.R. Leonard does on the boys' side. Like some of those shots are difficult, but they make it look easy and they end up falling in. So, I mean, I think just the growth of the sport, I hope it continues to, get the attention, the exposure that it needs here, because when we look at basketball, and I wrote a blog on it as far as a recruiting blog on it, the talent is exceptional. Like, we just look at the class when I came in, when you look at, obviously, Isaiah Collier, number one player in the country at the time, Stephon Castle, lottery pick number 4 by San Antonio Spurs. You look at Walker Kessler, like you said, who played his ball, and he went to Auburn, and now he's considered one of the best big men in the league. Like, we produce talent here in the state, so I think we just got to continue to do a good job of exposing it.
Yeah, and the coaching, obviously, is really impressive.
Yes.
But to me, the talent's always there, but in order to win the big thing, you look at like that Wheeler team a couple of years ago with Isaiah Collier leading the way. I mean, that might have been one of the best teams to ever come through the state of Georgia. Sadly, they only played about 2 games on TV, so a lot of people didn't get to witness it, but I think that's the biggest challenge for people in the media. We've got to be able to highlight on it. We got a better start this year, getting ahead of it while football was going, and now we see the storylines. We'll have continued coverage.
100%. And obviously more news are obviously coming up. Max is going to have a great story on Putnam County. Find out more about them. I'm not going to reveal everything in the story, but he's going to have a blog on that coming out obviously today. Other great basketball news stories in there. The 5A blog that I ended up doing, I said who will be crowned the champ. I won't reveal too much. We're going to talk more about that here in a little bit, but it's going to be really interesting to see 5A, especially with Cal now no longer being a team that's in 5A. They are 4A now. So now this will be the first year, Craig, that actually a new 5A champion will be crowned. Can't beat Cal this year, so it'll be interesting to see who comes out in 5A.
Yeah, we mentioned Gainesville's playing really well. You got Langston Hughes, Milton. It will be wide open.
Yes.
And then Cal going down to 4A. So the new classification, it didn't really impact 6A. 6A is still the biggest teams, but these other classifications have all gotten stronger, I feel like. And then I'm just saying that girls Class A through 3A private, that's going to be really impressive once those final seedings come out.
100%. Well, guys, that's going to conclude this segment. We couldn't get Coach Jeremy Kemp on, but we'll try for a later date. Coming up, we'll have more news around the state right here on the Peachtree Sports Network.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
A journeyman with Local 85 when you turn out, you can be hitting six figures.
Hey, I have your back, you have my back. We're going to do this together. We're one for all for one.
College just wasn't for me. Let's look into actual career jobs that wouldn't take college, where I wouldn't, lose money and all that. Instead of losing a lot more money at the end, why not make money and make more money at the end?
The Mechanical Trades Institute is an opportunity towards personal financial freedom through hands-on and rewarding work. Our school is completely free and gives apprentices the knowledge and skills required to gain access to a lifelong career path. Apprentices learn pipe fitting, plumbing, mechanical service, and welding. They earn money as they learn and graduate with no student debt. Start a career with the Mechanical Trades Institute and change your financial future.
What happens after you graduate? Will you go to the next level? Will people have your back in the heat of the battle? Will you still train like a champion in pursuit of greatness? You will when you become an IBEW electrician. Join our team. Visit IBEW613.org.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. We got some good segment here coming up for you guys. We're going to talk about GEC and the latest offers from around the state here. Obviously, we know it's a great exposure event that Rusty Menzel, IJ all put together, man, and some of us that worked the event. But it's definitely seeing some guys that kind of blow up here. And we'll start at the top, Craig, with Craig Dandridge. He's been a name that's been floating around, and he's been blowing up. Arkansas, Georgia Tech, Delaware, and obviously he popped off in that game. I loved calling it. Went off for 3 touchdowns, and you just seen the full display of what he could do on the gridiron, having some fun with it, dancing, and I just love just seeing him be able to blow up. Had a great season for Cambridge, right? Was instrumental in their playoff run all the way deep before they lost to Marist. But how cool is it to see him be able to get to that level?
It was impressive. He is so fast, and it just made sense to me because when you watched Cambridge this year, they hit a rough patch at the end of the regular season. They lost to Kell, they lost to BT. In the game against Kell, Cambridge had minus 24 rushing yards. They got completely shut down. Craig Dandridge was out, and so they had Hudson Kachera, they had Craig Dandridge when they were at full strength with the 2 receivers, Weston Taylor at quarterback. And Craig Dandridge, his ability to get open was why they were so successful, why they made that deep playoff run. The key next year is who's going to be the quarterback at Cambridge, because they have one of the best receivers in the state, in Craig Dandridge, but it is going to be a different looking attack without Weston Taylor. But I feel like Coach Jones will have something prepared for that, but that will be key. I feel like though year 2, he's got to have a good idea of his personnel at this point.
Yeah, he definitely does. I was chopping it up with him a little bit, and he feels really good about his team coming in, feels good about the offensive line. A couple of nicks and knacks he'll have to kind of work through, but he said he feels good about everything else and the players that he's going to have returning back, man. So Cambridge is going to be another team to follow. Next up, we'll go to Milton with Landon G getting an Auburn offer. If you guys don't know, his brother, Ryan G, is also going there now officially. He signed in that early signing window, but he received a scholarship offer from the Auburn Tigers, man, a big-time accomplishment for him, and just being able to, continue to be out there. We've seen some of his blocks, his finishing blocks on the GEC, and that's just great to go in. You already got an SEC offer before you even touch a high school campus.
Yeah, and a lot of people would say, how is an 8th grader already getting offers? Well, 1, that's how it works now. 2, if you watch that game, he was just absolutely dominant. He was blocking guys with perfect technique. He's tall, he's quick, pushing them out of bounds, getting the pancake box. I mean, not doing anything dirty, but just using physicality and going out there to prove, hey, I'm the best lineman out here. I'm gonna have my film kind of stand out and be impressive. Rusty said it was the most dominant middle school offensive line performance he's ever seen. Thinks he's going to be one of the best prospects ever. And this offer is just the start to that process. I have tremendous confidence that he will end up. Just looking at his frame, he already has that offensive tackle size, and he has the footwork, he has the football pedigree. He'll be at a place like Milton. I mean, he has a really bright future to be one of the highest rated offensive lineman to come through the state.
100%. And then next up, obviously, from Kell High School, not too far from here, it has Kentarius Mooney Gibson. He's already kind of blown up, in a sense, by himself, right? Obviously, already has South Carolina offers, pretty much any offer in the book, but he just recently picked up an offer from Arizona State. So that's another name. And I was very impressed with him this season, Craig. Obviously, after Tyreek Green left and transferred to Buford, he was tasked at a young age as a sophomore to carry the load offensively. I mean, and he did that and did some. Obviously, they spread it out with Caleb Narkeezy. They threw it with Jaden George and Braden Rouse, but I thought he did a really good job of being a cornerstone part of the offense, and they leaned on him a lot.
He's the real deal. He's got Jonathan Dwyer coaching him, mentoring him at Kell, a former Longhorn and a Georgia High School Football Hall of Famer. Mooney Gibson has been doing it since his freshman year. Obviously, this season, when he was healthy, he's unstoppable. And if you watch that GEC game, when he was lined up in the backfield, you knew no one was going to stop him and prevent him from getting in the end zone. He dominated, didn't have a bad carry the entire game, got positive yards. Just a really explosive, quick player that's able to gain positive yards, avoid the mistakes, read his blockers well, and I think he is one of the best running backs in the state. No questions asked. He's exciting. He's special.
100%. And the next up, obviously, Carter Mathis. He got a lot of shout-outs by, obviously, Rusty Menzel on his Twitter page. But he recently also picked up an offer from Auburn. So, he was fantastic. This year, though, Craig, what I want to see with Carter, I just want to see him be able to be that cornerstone player. When we look at that Gainesville offensive line, right, we obviously, look at Will Turner, who's going to Sanford now. He will no longer be there. But I want to see him along with Tyler Ford be some of those guys. Alex Payne now, obviously, as well, that left. He'll be at USC, another guy they're going to lose. But this is the year, 6'7". I want to see him be able to take that next step. He's gotten down in his weight. I can tell that he's taking his nutrition seriously. He's working, he's grinding. But now we need to see him be a 2-year starter for these Elephants going forward and be kind of a cornerstone on the offensive line.
Yeah, and you mentioned Alex Payne. Gainesville has great talent up front on that offensive line, but he has an opportunity to be so dominant with his size that, he can actually make a huge difference. Offensive line play is huge, but he can be that difference maker in the clutch situations where he can get that push off the line of scrimmage and have a big impact for them. They've got the talent around them, but I definitely am confident about that. So these are guys that have just gotten offers after the game. Some of them have already been on the map, but I wish the GEC, I wish we had more than one opportunity a year, because it is obvious playing in this game gets that attention and creates that buzz.
Yes, it does. And last but not least, before we conclude this segment, I do want to give a shout out also to, obviously, Kennesaw Mountain quarterback Chris Miller. He picked up a UNLV offer and also a Bowling Green offer. So that was big for him as well. Got a chance to see him, obviously, throwing that football in practice and everything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see, right? Kennesaw Mountain's going to look a little different, Craig, coming into the season, right? They had Kobe Lewis, they had Nayland Scott. They lose both. Obviously, Kobe Lewis, I don't know if you knew this, Craig, but he's at Sprayberry now. So he's going to go there along with, obviously, Jaden Duckett and Jordan Edmonds. But I want to see the steps and the talent and how they surround him.
Yeah, that'll be an intriguing storyline. Kennesaw Mountain had their best 3-year run probably in school history, making the playoffs for the first time. They had gone about 15 years without making the playoffs, and then they've really struggled the last 2 seasons. I think their receiver talent has been there, but they've just been a little one-dimensional. I think maybe the offensive system isn't tailored to just have one dominant receiver. Maybe they need to run the ball better, look for that quarterback, but I have a feeling they'll be a little more successful than they have been, even losing some of the playmakers. But it has been a tough year just after being so dominant, kind of nearly having like a perfect regular season and then dropping to the 2-8s, the 1-9. It's been tough, but they just got to keep at it.
Yeah, 100%, Craig. And then, obviously, we know right now a lot of offers are being sent out. Guys are blowing up. But just maybe a story from when you've been recovering the sport, Craig, like you've just seen a guy maybe just kind of come out of nowhere. I know Landon Roldan was one of your favorite ones, but just a guy that nobody really knew about, but then that spring window kind of came and he just kind of blew up in recruiting. What's a story you can kind of recount?
I really like the Ben Guthrie one from Alpharetta. He was a quarterback that he didn't ultimately get his scholarship opportunity, but he at least got the recognition to have that opportunity to walk on the next level. And and that's really all you can ask for when you see guys like Stetson Bennett, what they're able to do, just being able to get a spot on that roster. In the history of the Georgia Elite Classic, we have had 1,554 players end up on college rosters after that. We still have this class of 2025. Once February hits, we'll be able to update that list. And the amount of names that have come through this classic is only going to get better. Sammy Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, all these players, I feel like this next class is going to be really special. And then when you look at the class of 2027, what they were able to do in that sophomore freshman game, they have a chance to be one of the best classes to ever come through this event.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I agree with you, Craig. It's going to be interesting to see, kind of how it comes out. But like you said, that sophomore class, very talented. And that's not to take away from the freshman class. I just think when you have all that accumulation and talent and how many great players it was, that's kind of the result you get. But that's going to conclude it for this segment. Coming up, we will talk about some favorites and front runners in basketball this upcoming season in the GHSA. All right, welcome back to our last segment of the show for today. Excited to talk about some hoops right here on the Peachtree Sports Network. So we're going to have, just different teams that we're going to just discuss, talk about. I'll go ahead and start. I want to talk about the Milton Eagles. I think they have as good chance as any in that 5A classification to win this upcoming year's title. It's going to be very intriguing. There's some really good teams in that classification. But when you look at them at the midway point of the season, just picked up a 60-50 victory over Gainesville, right? They got an outstanding player in Josh Dixon, who's going to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, I believe it is. He led all scorers in their win with 26 points. Daniel Ojiemi, he finished with a double-double, scoring 16 and 15 boards. They had 2 out-of-state losses against Central Phoenix City and St. Joseph before the win against Gainesville, but it's a program that's seeking its 4th championship versus 2021 in hoops. But Coach Alan Whiteheart always does a really good job with this program and always has them ready to go and play. They're going to be a team to continue to watch going forward.
Certainly, and not being in 6A is going to benefit them. They're 9-3. They've played a daunting schedule. They've got a great region. They're going to play Gainesville one more time before the region tournament. And then when you look at the rest of Class 5A on the boys' side, no team has really emerged to take that number 2 spot. Woodward Academy is extremely talented. You got Tri-Cities up there. Winder Barrow just had a big win recently. Alexander, Lee County, but I agree. Right now, Milton, they play solid every single week, and beating a team like Gainesville the way they did, 60-50, a solid win, that is a good sign for sure. I think on the girls' side, it's going to be about River Ridge. They lost a heartbreaker last year. They had a very young team. I think returned every single player from it. Maybe with Sophia Pearl, I think even she's back. She's a senior.
Michaela Roberson.
Yep. Finley Parker.
Yep.
They've got a stacked team. They're 13-1 right now. I think they're going to have a good opportunity also. And teams like that suffered those losses last year, that's motivation, but I also feel like they're playing with a ton of confidence. And they look across this this classification, they feel like they're the team to beat.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Craig. I think River Ridge obviously is going to be a fun team to watch and see what they can do if they can get back there. Remember, they won the state championship the year prior, so before obviously getting beat. And obviously Marist winning. But another team we want to shout out, Craig, and I want to have this discussion with you. 6A, probably the most intriguing. I mean, you got so many great teams, Newton, Norcross, right? You also got Grayson and Wheeler. I feel like Wheeler is probably the best challenger to a Grayson not winning. And I do want to give a shout out to Grayson for winning and defeating Archer without one of their best players, and Caleb Holt, right? And also picked up a win against McEachern in the Grayson New Year's Classic. But Wheeler, Craig, got so much talent, right? You look at Kevin Savage, right? You look at Cola Settle Jr. You look at Tyler Jordan, who's going to Ole Miss. Monster McLean, kind of came out of nowhere, put up 30 points, in the Grayson New Year's Classic. Like, they got so many guys that could punch you. And then not even mention Coben Landrew, who is a 4-star prospect. You got so many guys. I feel like that's a team that can make some noise.
Yeah, so Wheeler won 2 years ago, lost pretty much that entire team. Last year had a solid second half of the season, a big push. That was difficult for them to literally have an entire new starting 5. That's when they ended up losing to Walton in region play. Came back, made a big run. This year, their team is so much better than it was last year. To me, though, in Class 6A, the teams that won last year in boys and girls were Grayson. And not only did they win, they absolutely dominated. That girls Grayson team was 20 points better than most every team they played. Then the Grayson boys, they dominated their way to their first state title. I think it will be harder for both of them this year. The competition is a little deeper, but the fact that they were so dominant last year, I feel like that's why they're still the team to beat. I think it's just going to be a little closer margin this year.
And then I want to go to 4A, Craig. Correct me if I'm wrong. Pace Academy is 4A, correct?
Yes.
Now, I think it could be on a collision course for Pace, maybe going up against a North Oconee team that's really, really good. Obviously, Coach Rick, we talked to him, in our previous episodes and things that we had here on the show. I'm curious to see how that's going to all look. You got Kamari Brooks, who's came in. He recently just had a double-double in one of their victories. You got Justin Watts, who's one of the best guards, I think, in the 2027 class that no one talks about. And you got Pace Academy with their elite crew with Eric Chatfield Jr. Obviously, they got Bentley Luscano. They got Breland Craft. They got so many guys as well. It might be on the collision course for a potential big-time game later here in the season.
It would be a heck of a matchup. Pace Academy, these last few years has come very close. Eric Chatfield is so reliable, giving you that 20 points per game. If he gets to the foul line, he's going to make you pay. He shoots at an incredibly high percentage. With North Oconee, though, they're one of the few teams that has the ability to change the pace of the game because they can get the 3-ball going. They move the ball very well. They have guys that are athletic enough to push it in transition. So if they're able to get hot, spark runs in a game against Pace Academy, they can get a lead and then play clock management. But what Coach White has with his experienced roster is guys that understand the pace of the game. They can stop the bleeding if another team heats up. They can slow the pace down, get to the line of scrimmage, get to their spots. That's why I think they're the team to beat, is the experience that they're able to play with. North Oconee is a big-time challenger, but I just feel like there's too much experience with guys like Eric Chatfield and their ability to get to the line 10 times a game if they need to.
100%. Now let's go one more, Craig. 3A. Let's talk about that one. Now these two teams played a few years ago in the state championship, Cedar Grove and Sandy Creek. But I feel like Sandy Creek can never sleep on them. What they got, not as talented as they usually are, but they're still having a good year, off to a 12-2 start this year. Obviously, Jacoby Robinson's a player to continue to watch going forward for them. But Cedar Grove feels like a really complete team. They play some out-of-state matchups. When you look at what Manny Green can do and how elite he is, a 4-star guard, they got obviously Javante Floyd, Yusuf Boyer, and they obviously got Keith Gillespie as well. So I feel like those two teams are probably front runners in 3A.
Keith Gillespie is one of the best shooters I've seen in person. He led Fayette County to the semifinals as a sophomore, and it just knocks down everything. He's a guy that will not even take a dribble usually. Once he starts knocking it down and you try to get out on him, he'll pump fake and hit you with a floater, but he is such a lethal shooter out wide. I think it's a toss-up, though, with Sandy Creek and Cedar Grove every time they play. The one thing, though, you look at Sandy Creek recently, they have really upped the pace. They're averaging over 75 points per game.
100%. Well, guys, that's going to conclude the show today. Again, make sure you watch it back on the Peachtree Sports Network. Make sure you go to scoreatl.com for the latest weather updates there. We will see about a show tomorrow, so don't go anywhere. Make sure you're back at 12 to 1 tomorrow.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off. Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Beginning the morning you opened your eyes, we spent every waking moment preparing you for the day you'd leave our nest. Whether it's driving to practice or helping with homework, it's all prepared you for, what am I going to be when I grow up? Will you be ready?
After much thought, I made my decision to take my talents to the IBEW Local 613.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers is not simply a job, it's a career. Visit IBEW613.org to begin a new future today.
Are you interested in becoming a deputy or a jailer? The Gwinnett County Sheriff's Office is hiring and looking for individuals passionate about protecting and serving their community. If you are 18 years or older, join our team by visiting gogcso.com for more information. Gwinnett County, together we can make a difference.
Basic Combat Training is a 10-week experience that will challenge you both physically and mentally. Each phase of your training will introduce you to new soldier skills, building and advancing them along the way. You and your fellow soldiers will work as a team to accomplish each mission, overcome each obstacle, and earn the right to wear the black beret of an Army National Guard soldier.